This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macron. Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Here today to review the Lions against the Steelers. Is it time to judge a former first-round pick? We got a lot to break down, especially with the Detroit Lions season right around the corner. Can't wait to break it all down. Real interesting in looking at what's happened with the Detroit Lions and the Pistons and Red Wings and all that good stuff. And we'll peek into a little bit of everything here today on this week's Doc and Jock. What up, cuz? What's happening?
Not too much, man. I'm ready to get this started. Look, this is one of my most favorite times of the year. You know, I love the underwear combine. It's one of my favorites. I love the draft. That is one of my favorites. And basically bubble season. That's where we're at. We're at bubble season right now, where who is on the bubble and who's going to get cut and who's going to remain a Detroit Lion. This is it's always interesting. It's always kind of fun to have these debates. It is basically mindless mental masturbation is what it is, but I love it. You love it. So why the hell don't we just do it? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. By Tuesday, the team will be set at 53 men, and that's a lot of cuts. It's going to be 23 cuts after the third and final preseason game, a game in which now the report came out. Dan Campbell spoke with Frank Reich, and they've said, look, we're not going to play our starters. So Frank's like, we don't want to just massacre this team. So the Colts are not going to play their starters. Carson Wentz is not going to be there. So pray for me because I got to watch a whole lot of Ifeatu Melifonwu and a whole lot of A.J. Parker and a whole lot of Bobby Price and scratch your head and make stories out of it. But it'll be interesting to see because there are some legitimate roster battles, and it might include a name that you might not have thought was on it. Because Dan Campbell has been forthright in saying that, hey, Breshad Perriman hasn't really shown me a lot because he's been hurt. He's got to do more. And that put, Breshad Perriman right on the bubble because of the fact that his contract's only $2 million. He's not guaranteed a roster spot. Really, nobody else is. And his comment, I thought, was perfect to say that, look, there may be people that you all thought are going to make this roster, but it's not going to happen if they don't go out there on the field and perform. And I think he also took a realistic approach with DeAndre Swift, and he meant it, and he said that, hey, Swift hasn't practiced, so I can't tell you exactly what I can get from him. And when he's been out there, when he goes full bore, he's been productive, Swift, and you see the spark out there. But unfortunately, then a day later, his groin hurts. So that's not the type of player the Lions are looking for. And it's real unfortunate that, Swift hasn't been able to practice and has been kind of all throughout training camp nicked up, which was similar to what happened in college. And that's very, very concerning. But I'll start with this because that's the hot button topic that everybody really wants to really, really hone in on. Not Jeff Okudah just yet. Hold on. We'll talk about Okudah, no doubt about it. Dude, we're recording episode 421, and Jahlani Tavai is still on this roster, bro. Still on this roster. He's got to be among the 23 because he looks lost, and everybody that watches his film goes, what is this guy doing? What's he trying to accomplish? He's always looking like he's trailing the play. He's always looking like he's biting at the wrong time. When Derek Barnes goes out there, he at least it appears to have a fundamental understanding of what he's doing. Jahlani Tavai, unfortunately, is always in a position where he looks out of position and looks a little bit to be a player that doesn't understand what his assignment is and to go out there and execute it consistently. I literally thought a message would have been legitimately sent had he been among the five going from 85 to 80, but they took a bunch of guys that, a backup quarterback, number 4 string. They took a bunch of guys that were really at the bottom of the depth chart, but I thought you sent a message to this team. And it's a perfect example, too, because he's going to be among the 23 cut. He can't make this team.
He has to.
I think you could have sent a message early, but it's crazy.
Would you do this? And just humor me for a little bit. Would you trade Jahlani Tavai and a conditional 4th-round pick to the Patriots for N'Keal Harry?
No, here's a problem. Harry got hurt, which negated my
Doesn't
argument.
matter.
Yeah, you're like, it doesn't matter. We'll take a guy who's hurt. No, you just cut him outright. You can't get nothing for him. Nobody that watches his film, other than the Patriots, would look at him. But I don't think I think the Patriots know that the Lions are not serious about keeping him, so they wouldn't offer nothing but a 6th-round pick.
Dude, do you remember back on draft day when he was selected?
Who?
All the rumors. Well, the Patriots were in on him. The Patriots were looking at him, and all of us were like, really? Like, there was so much talent to be taken, and you went with this guy. Like, I remember when he was drafted. I remember driving in my car listening to the draft, and I almost had to pull over because I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, I've never heard of him. And like, I went to all of the mock drafts I could get my hands on. I did like 9 different Google searches. I eventually found out that he was a linebacker out of Hawaii. And at that moment in time, I wanted to throw my phone out the window, and I wanted to throw myself onto I-75 and just get ran over, because I was like, you can't be serious. You're taking a linebacker out of freaking Hawaii? Like, what are we talking about here?
The joke the joke online was that the Lions just wanted a free trip to Hawaii, and the scouts just said, yeah, let's just go out there and look at him.
Dude, here's the thing. It is so disappointing that this team, under the previous regime, drafted so poorly in those second rounds. Like, you're just devoid of talent from your second-round picks. And, you know, you brought up the fact that DeAndre Swift is nicked up and injured again. And like, how befitting a Detroit Lions team where the running back is again saddled with injuries and is sidelined and is hampered with nagging nicks and cuts and injuries that keep him off the field. It seems like every Detroit running back and it seems like every Detroit linebacker, those 2 positions just completely befuddle the scouts, and they just can't figure it out, and they can't draft them well. Now, you talked about Derek Barnes, and yeah, he looks great. Like, I'm hoping he gets some run with whoever is starting this game. Like, you need to see a little bit more out of him. You want to see more out of him, and hopefully he gets a good chunk of play time this week when they take on the Colts here.
Yeah, it's man, I would like to see Derek Barnes. I'd like to see Craig Reynolds. I'd like to see a lot of players getting first-team reps as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and we'll talk expectations here in a few minutes. But going back to the Steelers game, it wasn't a fair fight. Look, square one, it wasn't a fair fight because of the fact that the Steelers had a lot of their 1s against the Lions 2s. But
they were running 1s versus 2s. Come on now.
But you can, and I agree with all those that have said, hey, it's not fair that, the Lions still looked undisciplined. It's not fair to dismiss everything that we saw. The team didn't look good. The number 2s didn't make enough plays to let anyone say, well, these guys are getting coached up really well. These guys exceeded their talent level. They looked a little bit out of sorts. There was mistakes. Tim Boyle barely moved the offense.
Dude.
And
can we talk about him when you get done making your statement?
Yeah, Dan Campbell said it, and he was so true in his sideline comments. He said, this was uncompetitive. And that's wrong. And obviously, it's a lot of those players that were uncompetitive will not be on the roster. I get it. But still, you still got to go out there and make some plays, make some contribution to the first half. And they didn't do it. And Ben Roethlisberger, remember, he's learning a new offense, and he was going out there carving up the Lions and was looking like the Ben Roethlisberger of 5 years ago. This is not a quarterback that's expected to just master the offense so fast, but he did against the Lions defense, and I could see why. In my article at SIL Lions, I said a report came out that Ben wanted to play as much as possible. He saw that defense and was like, oh man, I can make my stats look good in the preseason. Playing the Lions? I want to play. Coach Tomlin, look. This ain't serious. I can play all 4 quarters. They're not going to touch me. They're not going to do nothing. I'm going to light it up. So I could see why he wanted to chomp at the bit to get out there. But it was a tough first half. It was nice to at least see David Blau move the offense and some points being scored.
Like, here's the thing. Tim, Tom, Toby, whatever Boyle, he's so disappointing. Like, it was last week we talked about the zip that he puts on the ball. The issue with him is he is so inaccurate, and he puts his wide receivers in such a bad spot. Wide receivers are constantly having to reach behind themselves to grab a ball. Yeah, and it opens them up to just get crumpled. It's absolutely disgusting. And, you talked about David Blau. David Blau, might be a project. I don't know what his ceiling is, but there was a guy out in San Francisco who was a former first-round pick that I was really hoping when he got cut, the Lions could just take a flyer on, and maybe you strike magic in a bottle. Maybe this is a guy who bounces around a little bit and ends up on a team that kind of values him a little bit, and maybe you get some Alex Smith-like production out of him. And that was Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen ends up in Atlanta, but that was a guy who I was like, man, he's going to get cut. Like he's going to. He's got too much of an uphill battle, and I don't know if he's good enough. I don't know. I really haven't watched a ton of Josh Rosen film since he's been in the NFL. There were a couple games where he played for the Cardinals that I watched, but that's been a couple of years. So I don't really know what he could contribute to this team, but I know it's a lot more than what Boyle's contributing, and I feel like his ceiling is higher than a guy like David Blau, and that would have been one of those like waiver wire moves. That would have been one of those moves that they made during training camp that I think would have really helped that position group. Like, let's make no bones about it. Neither one of us think that Jared Goff is an upgrade over Matt Stafford. I think we both feel that he is a comparable game manager. He's a guy who probably won't win you games, but if you take enough things off the table, he won't lose you games. All that being said, you bring in a guy like Rosen and you say, hey, go out there and try to compete, try to win that job. And you see what he gives you, because I think we both agree that they're going to be drafting a quarterback either next year or the year after. And it's one of those things where you take a flyer on a guy. You've got a guy like Goff who's going to be here for this year and next year, and then it's kind of up in the air what happens after that. But maybe Josh Rosen pushes him a little bit. Maybe you get some good production out of him, and maybe he could be your guy of the future. Like I said, maybe he could be like your Alex Smith. Here's the thing. I think I overvalue Alex Smith and what he's brought to his NFL career. I always felt like Alex Smith was a guy who really never got a good run. When the moment he did get a good run, you've seen what he did. He was productive in San Francisco. He was productive in Kansas City. And both times he ended up losing his job to a younger, better quarterback. But he's a guy where once he got situated and once he was given the offense, he was never given. Like, it's amazing if you go back and you look at the way the coaching staff shifted around him when he was in San Francisco. It was nuts that he could never settle in and really attain the level of potential that I thought that he might have. But even when he went to Washington before his left, the guy was still giving you good production in Washington. So I don't know, man. I just feel like that was a bit of a missed opportunity to really help improve an aspect of this team that has really taken steps back because you traded Matt Stafford. So, I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. I was wondering what you might have thought about that.
I knew the name. We've talked about it in the past, but unfortunately, he just bounced around now. It's 3-4 teams. I don't think he's going to glom on anywhere. When you can't even make it with the 49ers, who have a rookie quarterback, it's just not going to happen for Rosen. So what I would have liked was just have a fair evaluation of Jordan Tiamo. I mean, this guy lit it up in a league, and not the NFL, but he's a guy that's mobile. At least see him in a preseason game. But I think it's locked in. It's Boyle, it's Blau. It's going to be a combination. And Dan Campbell said he has no problem. He has no problem keeping 3 quarterbacks on the roster. But bottom line, it's evident that if Goff goes down, it's going to be an epic disaster. And you just hope that it doesn't come to that, because the they're not good enough. And it shows in practice too with Boyle in terms of the fact he's got a big arm, but accuracy and touch that's needed to take the next step from backup to starter is not there. So not there at all. All right, elephant in the room. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's looking at it. A little bit of, the Lions coaching staff trying to butter up Jeff Okudah. Obviously made a big mistake in the game. You can't give up chunk plays of 40 yards plus, and it happened. And Deontay Johnson, Logan said it on Twitter, he's not known for being a speed burner, and it happened. He got beat. He made a mistake. He said he got greedy, tried to jump a route, and he got burned. But you can say that he came back, made a tackle, made a breakup against Juju Smith-Schuster. You can say look at the whole body of work. But right now, when you look at Jeff Okudah, that's the one big concern that everybody has is, will he be able to limit the production of the opposing wideouts? And right now, cuz I can't blame Okudah It's the position. I mean, you're screwed either way. These cornerbacks have no chance of success. So that's why everyone has the argument that why would you draft a corner that high? It's unfortunate, but that's what they've done. And you just hope that he can develop in a year or two to be someone that can be productive. The big thing that people are kind of starting to target, and it makes sense, they're starting to assess, can this dude play man-to-man? Is he a guy that unfortunately just has to be a zone corner that's just out there, and you're like, ooh, if you don't get shut down production from Jeff Okudah, you're going to have a problem, a big problem.
I agree with you. And here's the thing. I don't know if it's time to give up on the guy, to call it quits with him. I don't know if it's time to basically pack it in on him. But what I can tell you is he's got about 4 or 5 games to really impress me, and I think probably to impress this coaching staff. If he doesn't show some level of improvement in the next 4 games, 5 games, I think it's safe to say he's a complete bust. He's an absolute bust. He's got essentially the first month of the season to really prove it. And if not, I don't know what you do with him. I don't know if you can move him to play safety. I don't know if all you can do is use him as a nickel or use him in complete zone options. I don't know what you do with this guy. But again, it would be another blown pick by the previous regime, setting this team behind. And that's got to be so frustrating if you're a Lions fan, just to see a wasted pick when you could have had Justin Herbert. That wasn't the guy I wanted. I'll be the first guy to say that. All right. I sure as hell did not want Okudah. All right. But you could have had Tua. Tua looked pretty good this last game that he played. You could have had different options. There were a ton of guys on defense that would have came in and made a dramatic impact that you could have had. You didn't get any of those guys. You got a cornerback who doesn't appear to be able to play man-to-man and is not that shutdown cornerback and has a hard time tracking the ball, tackling the wide receiver, much less staying on top of the wide receiver. It's been a complete and unmitigated disaster with Okudah currently.
But we do have to be factual in that a lot of the starting defensive line wasn't there. That will help Okudah. I think that there's an opportunity for him to develop, but it's just not going to be something that is going to really, really be something you're going to see right away. And here's the thing that's scary too, and you've seen it. You've seen the likes of players that have come in at corner. They typically come in and are really, really productive and make you go, wow, look at me, or they flame out. Have you seen anybody that's been like in the middle ground where you say, man, okay, this guy, Darius was good, but he started to show. First of all, he was a player that was drafted way later in the 50s. So in the second round, not number 3. So yeah, you are burdened by where you are drafted. But bottom line, for Jeff Okudah, we got to start seeing interceptions. We got to start seeing some turnovers. We got to start seeing some big hits. You got to okay, you're going to get burned. It's the NFL. It's impossible. Jalen Ramsey gets burned. Deion Sanders got burned. Everybody got burned. But we need to see some high step in. We need to see something on the other side more. And we saw a good pass breakup. We saw a little bit of his tackling ability. That's fine. I just say that I can't say he's a bust yet. I just think that if this coaching staff is worth a medal, with Aaron Glenn and Aubrey Pleasant, if they don't get it out of him, it's not going to happen. He's not going to go somewhere else. Those two are defensive backs. So if he makes his mistakes, let's hope they are in the preseason. Let's hope he gets it out now, and that when it's time, because look, the 49ers are going to bring in Ayuk. They're going to bring in, a quarterback that's going to be looking to take advantage. So I am definitely nervous. I will be targeting Okudah in the first game against the Niners as a player that you got to pay attention to, because if him and Amani Oruwariye struggle, it's going to be real bad. But I think the defensive line will do a little bit more to get pressure. I think that there'll be opportunities to kind of not leave Okudah alone. And 2, he's got to go over there to the safeties and be like, look, if I'm expecting help and if I can't take calculated risks knowing that you'll be there, then fuck you. Then be like, dude, you're hanging me out to dry. Will Harris need to get his ass over there. Help a brother out. If Okudah is going to be someone trying to be a little bit aggressive and jump routes, when there's expectation, I'm going to get some safety help. There better be some safety help, or I'm going to be the one here standing here taking all the darts and having Doc ask me stupid questions like what happened on that play. But he looked composed. He answered the question honestly. The company line was he was greedy and didn't have discipline. Hey, take your medicine, but you got to start. We got to start from Okudah. We have to start seeing more than 1 or 2 interceptions. We need 4 or 5. We need some signature play that says, here I am, welcome to the league, I'm Jeff Okudah. And hopefully he's got that dog mentality. Hopefully he gets pissed that everybody's focusing just on the one bad play he made and not the other productive plays that he's made, and he gets a chip on his shoulder and he does something because that's what we're looking for. And remember, too, I tend to react more to preseason because it does kind of lend you to see a little bit about coaching and things like that. Now, scheme, and there's a lot of things that you discount, but you still can get a sense. Jeff Okudah took on a wideout who made a move, so you can evaluate it. How much meaning will it have? We'll see. It's right around the corner, September 12th, I believe. It's going to be the Lions and the Niners. It's going to be great. This Friday, you can look at some battles. The day to pay attention to at Detroit Sports Podcast, at Detroit Podcast on Twitter, and SIL Lions is the Tuesday after the final game, the 31st. 23 cuts. We'll have the roster. We'll have the first couple of days of September to evaluate it. But right now, entering the season, I'm of the opinion it's going to be an average football team. 6 to 7 wins max. I think that you get lucky if other teams come in hurt, but there's going to be some fight. I'm going to tell you this, too, before we switch topics. I got to see a fight at Wednesday because it was cool. It wasn't a full-on, punching fight, but it was something where they were grunting and groaning, and they were, 50 people, scrumming up, and it was cool to see. It's unfortunate they wouldn't let us tape it. I could have pulled out my phone real fast, but I'll say this. Seeing a brawl with that many angry dudes was sweet as hell. It was amped up, and they were talking shit, and it was cool to see. Luckily, it didn't go nowhere further. You just saw the grunting and the shit like that, but it was cool to see. I don't look at brawls as being a bad thing. I saw the aggression that I wanted to see. Hopefully, it translates into action on the field. And honestly, Dan Campbell is someone that is interesting to talk to, and I can't wait for the season to break it all down. It's a rebuilding year. But my evaluation of the preseason is that the wideouts probably was left behind. Somehow or another, they said, we're just going to tackle that later. We're just going to roll with Williams, Breshad, Perriman, Tyrell Williams, and a rookie. And if Cephas gives us anything, we'll just we'll see what happens. Because for me,
do you think that when everybody gets cut, right?
Yeah.
When the waiver wire rolls around,
yeah,
they're going to be hitting that extremely hard.
I think so. There'll be 1 or 2. Yeah, I don't know at wide receiver.
I think it might be more than that. I could see this the wide receiving room.
But you also got
I could see it getting overhauled quite a bit because I haven't seen anything out of anybody. Tom Kennedy's been your best wide receiver that you've got.
So embarrassing to even consider that. Exactly. But you do have Sage Surratt and you do have Javon McKinley. So you have the opportunity there to put them on the practice squad. 16 players can go on their practice squad. So that'll be something as well to pay attention to. Pay attention to depth charts that you see. I think that it's going to be pretty straightforward in terms of who's going to get cut. A lot of the guys lower end on the roster are pretty well known. Wide receivers, I think you get Tom Kennedy and the 2 undrafted guys in the practice squad. You get a couple linebackers that are young in the practice squad. I think A.J. Parker makes the team. And the surprise would be if Jahlani Tavai makes the roster. If he makes it, I don't know how Detroit's going to react because I just think you get addition by subtraction when you make that move. So we'll see. Anybody in particular that you think that you're curious about, and I can give a quick opine on if they're going to make the roster or not?
I think a guy who's got an uphill battle is Perriman. I haven't seen anything out of him in these 2 games, and it sounds like when he's at practice, it doesn't sound like he's really giving that effort that the coaching staff really wants to see.
Yeah.
Look, I see Tom Kennedy a little bit different than you.
Kennedy.
You think Kennedy makes the practice squad. I think Kennedy makes the roster. Whether he is the 4th wide receiver or whether he is just a special teams guy, I see him making the roster.
Bro, seriously. If I say this, you can't help but laugh. Tyrell Williams, Breshad Perriman, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Quintez Cephas and Tom Kennedy, bro, that's probably the worst 4-5 that you've ever seen. Come on, it can't be that way. I would roll with Sage Surratt and have him be there, or McKinley. You got to. You can't have a guy that you just use for special teams. Yeah, he's a hard worker, but he's a practice hard worker. In the game, we haven't seen it yet. You can't.
Like, if you have to compare him to a guy, would you not compare him to Cup from the Rams? You're like, no. Would you not compare him to Cup from the Rams?
Bro, it's Tom Kennedy. He is, bro, you walk up on him and you could steal his money. It's Tom Kennedy, guys. I know he's like an inside slot guy, man. Like, I get it. Like, I understand what he is. But what I'm telling you is he's a guy who goes out there and competes every down. And when you turn the film on, he makes plays. Like, anything thrown to him, he's catching. He's not running bad routes. He runs pretty good routes. They're pretty crisp. I mean, these are things like, look, and I get it that it's against predominantly 2s and 3s. I understand. But what I'm telling you is I see this as a guy who might make the roster, who going into the year, I didn't think he was making the roster. We both had a good laugh about it, I think 3 podcasts ago. But I think now he's a guy, just because what you've gotten out of this wide receiving core has been so piss poor. Like, I don't think Perriman makes it. I think Perriman gets cut. And I think when other guys get released from other teams, his spot will probably be filled by somebody else. And don't be surprised if Kennedy's a guy who I don't know, he's your 5th wide receiver on this team. I think he gets real live game snaps in game. And take it for what it's worth, okay? I might be completely wrong, and I might be out of bounds on this, okay? I could see Tom Kennedy making the roster, going out, having a game, making a couple really big catches, and next thing you know, working his way slowly into the lineup. Kennedy. I don't see it, cuz look, it's just something where Anthony Lynn said that the number 5 receiver has got to perform on special teams. They'll suit up, but you won't get targeted. Hawkinson, it's going to be Hawkinson, St. Brown, the 2 running backs, then maybe Kennedy late in as like a victory cigar kind of situation. But guys, that's a Zach Zenner situation. It's a stretch. I'm there. I see it. He's good, but it's just kind of like, if you're a wrestling fan, it's kind of like those smaller guys getting the title. It happens, but they don't get the love early. It's going to be Cephas. Cephas had himself a great practice Wednesday. He seems to be coming along. I think you get those 4 and maybe one of the undrafted guys, but maybe somebody that's cut. But Kennedy, I'll be shocked if I'll be as shocked as if I would be really one of the most shocking roster placements if Kennedy makes this roster. It'd be a good sentiment to reward him, but I still think that you could upgrade that position at any point, and it might be one of those things where he makes the roster celebratory and then gets put on the practice squad in week 2 or week 3. But Friday, we'll see what happens, and then we'll break it all down. 53-man roster. We're going to have our team, the Lions team, by Tuesday. Now, quickly, I was expecting, when I heard the word alliance, I was expecting, Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12, they got it locked up. They hooked it up. They said, you know what? We're not going to play games. We're not going to let the SEC run wild. We're going to have a presser. We're going to have this set up. We're going to have, new divisions where, UCLA, USC, teams in the ACC, we're going to have it all set up. And they proceeded to hold a press conference to basically say we're going to begin to look at potentially scheduling against each other. Why would you schedule a presser to do that? Because everybody wanted to know the details that you had. There's no deal. You basically got everybody nice and warmed up, and then you pulled your pants back up and the lady left. It's like, you left me here hanging, and now what? It was crazy. I couldn't believe that was the announcement. Don't you think that 25 reporters are going to have some detailed questions as to who's going to play when, how how this is going to work, you brought basically your fronting against the bully, trying to say, hey, I'm here. And then when the bully pushed you, you said, okay, I'm out, and just walked away. You didn't do nothing. What was that? I don't understand. I get the concept of it, but how the hell do you form an alliance with no real details? What the hell happened? Am I wrong? Did I miss something? Have I been overworking? Is there details?
With nothing signed, no game plan on what you're doing in the future. Basically, it was three dudes who got together in a room and were like, hey, you don't have enough equity to stand up to the SEC. I don't have enough equity to stand up to the SEC, and they don't have enough equity to stand up to the SEC. So let's get together and let's, when we go to vote on things, we'll all vote the same, and let's basically put on this united front that we're here to do things. And then when they got in front of the cameras and everybody started asking questions, because everybody's interested in what the hell's going on, they were kind of like, yeah. So about all that, we have on a loose leaf sheet of paper. It actually might be a napkin with a beer stain on it. We have a rough idea about what we might want to do, maybe in a couple of years. But for right now, we are thinking together because we are like-minded universities. Like, wait, what? What the fuck are you talking about?
And we have to note that this is just not about football. We care and we give a fuck about academics. So don't you think this is about money or a power play or an SEC response. No, this is just for the benefit of these student athletes who we don't want to see fall by the wayside. Bro, we're like, dude, we just give a fuck about football. Which divisions are going to play? Who's in it? Who's not in it? Can you develop a super conference? Can you make it? Can you call it an alliance? Can you bring over somebody good? Can you steal somebody good?
Dude,
I mean, they literally
got together and gave a whole lot of nothing.
Exactly.
It was like a cold, wet shower. There was absolutely nothing presented, and they have nothing worked out.
Nothing.
This was such a swing and a miss, and this is like so typical Big Ten. Big Ten does things so ass backwards. Like, that's the one great thing about the SEC. Like, the SEC doesn't make any minds about anything. They let you know exactly where they stand and what they stand for. It is all football, and it is all football all the time. And anything that they do is for the betterment of football, and it is win at all costs. Here in the Big Ten, it's, well, we got a good kayaking program, and we've got a good intramural beach volleyball team as well. But our football team is not so bad. They're pretty subpar, and that's good enough for us. It is so frustrating being a fan of Big Ten football when you have these dummies and these boners running it. It is so incredibly frustrating. And look, I get it, right? I get that football is not the only sport. I totally understand that you've got rowing, you've got ice hockey, you've got field hockey, you've got soccer, you've got softball, baseball. I get it. But the cash cows are your men's football program. It is your men's basketball program. And sometimes it is even your women's basketball program. Those programs should be put above all the rest because those are what bring you money. Here in Big Ten country, ice hockey brings you money as well, but it is down the list, okay? Those programs should be put ahead of everybody else and should be allowed to feast. And look, I understand that those non-revenue sports, they have to come to the table as well, and they've got to be able to eat, but you have to position your conferences in the best way to help the ones that are cash cows succeed the most. And the Big Ten just doesn't do that. They come up with these half-assed, half-brained ideas, and they're just like, all right, well, let's just roll it out there and see what happens. And it's a total letdown. It's like you're going home with the hot chick, and next thing you know, she pulls out her dentures, and you're like, well, maybe I'll take a gummy. And then next thing you know, you wake up in the morning and you realize she's absolutely hideous. It wasn't just that she had no teeth. She's absolutely hideous and only has one leg and 4 fingers on one hand.
And
it's horrible.
And she stole your wallet.
Yeah, and she stole your wallet.
So,
bitch.
It's just not, it was like, this is our response because college football is volatile. Well, yeah, come to the table with something. Don't come to the table with, Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Okay, then bring it up in 2 years when you actually have something to talk about. Literally, there's nothing. There is nothing. And it's beyond ridiculous in regards to what was brought to the table. And that's a lesson for others, is that you don't call a presser to announce that you're going to start something, because you're going to get laughed at and you're going to get talked to. So, well, what are you going to do? Because it's a situation in which people, maybe jumped the gun, wanted a little bit of attention, but didn't foreshadow the fact that we're a society that wants the information. We want it all. We want to know who, what, where, when, how, who signed it, who's in it. And here's the other thing, too. There's no contract agreement that says that UCLA just can't join another conference. They didn't lock anything down. They didn't say this. They didn't say that. They just said, we're going to just chat and tell you guys later what we're doing. Okay, thanks for wasting our time and getting our hopes up and wasting a bunch of discussion and things like that. Now, I got one final point here before we get out of here. And Wednesday morning, I wake up, I have coffee, and what flashes before my eyes when I hit ESPN?
Porn.
No, it was not. No. I went to ESPN first. Porn
wasn't that threesome?
No, porn was fifth.
Oh.
It's ESPN, SI,
Razzers.
Yeah, all that good stuff. and then go back to ESPN. And then what's on the front cover of the NFL page? It's Matthew Stafford. I'm like, now you're doing features. Now you're taking retarded looking photos.
I know where you're going with this.
and now you're going to come out and say that you didn't want to just play on Sunday at 1. Bro, you wanted to play Sunday at 1. You were the luckiest guy in the history of professional football. You were under the radar, and everybody felt sorry for you. Now you got to play in front of the whole national television audience to get exposed. That feature was, in essence, as I was reading it, I'm like, this is why I love SI Alliance. We hit it right to the point. We get you in, we get you out. You read your information, and you bust out. This dude, Seth, was writing on and on and on. And every 4 paragraphs, Stafford tells him, you can't write this. No, you can't. Don't write about this. And this guy's bloviating on and on. He didn't even have to sit with Stafford. He could have just said, Stafford, can I just use your name? And he could have just took all the information that he got from January to August and then bloviated. That piece was what I don't like about journalism. It's a writer that just wanted to spit out word salad and not say anything fresh. Oh, the news you made was Stafford wanted to play in big games. Yeah, no shit, he wanted to play in big games. That was said when he first got there. That piece didn't say nothing new. I didn't learn nothing more. And by the 10,000th word, I said, when's this shit gonna end? This is more boring that you did the feature than if it was never printed at all. You do features.
Here's the thing,
you do features to what did you learn?
Learn something
There's
new.
nothing new that nobody that looked at it for the last 8 months didn't know about. He wanted to leave.
Stafford didn't value his time here in those big games. Those playoff games that he came up incredibly small in. He didn't win any of those, and those weren't big enough games for him, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Because when he says that I want to play in big games, and I didn't feel like I was going to get that in Detroit. You do realize you are one of the key integral parts of this team getting into big games. Like, you are the guy who is the quarterback. You have the ability to help this team get into big games. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it was just disappointing to read. It was a lot of word salad, a lot of this, a lot of that. And great. Sean McVay's happy he's got a quarterback that can check a defense and do whatever he's got to do. But Matthew Stafford's buttoned up. It's boring. And the part that made me laugh was he went to his room and cried alone when he'd lose a game. Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry for you, bro. I'm sorry that you had to go be in your room when you lost. Maybe you could have watched extra film and handled your business. And so I didn't need that. I didn't need the, happy photos. I didn't need any of that. None of that was needed. I read it to be informed, but I came away just thinking in my head, yeah, why would you choose Matthew Stafford to feature? You could have featured anybody else but Stafford. You probably would have got more clicks.
When you were leaving Ford Field last year covering the Lions, did you ever get stuck in the elevator with Matt Stafford?
No,
that never happened to you.
I never. No, I did my, like I said, when the cameras were on, it was all PC. When it was off, when he knew that it wasn't live, he'd joke around, was one of the guys.
Yeah.
But for me, when it wasn't media day for him, like if it was his day was Wednesday, he had a day every day, and he talked. And when it was that day, he was cool. But if you tried to talk to him on a Thursday or Friday, I was just bullshitting with him. I was going to ask him something about Billions, a TV show. I said, hey, I want to ask you something about Billions. He's like, I got to go. Boom. And he just ran out. Like, he didn't even say, hey, sorry, hit me up later. He was like, got to go. And he just, like, literally, the words, hey, I want to ask you. And he was already in through the doors.
Yeah.
So my interaction with him was curt, brief. And
Dude,
I had listen, to be honest, he's an athlete, he's a dude, he's a regular guy, but the shit that he tried to do with the media was boring and uninformative and didn't help us. And then what he would do is he'd go to his boy who would puff up everything and be like, it's not ethical to do interviews on a major network, Channel 4, and have it be with somebody that knows you. And then Channel 4 never really acknowledged that Hank Winchester was the family babysitter. I mean, doing that kind of shit is annoying, and having all the people that love you, the people that you give money to write about you, that's fine. I mean, literally, but honestly, as I was reading, I was like, Dave Burkett deserved to write this. Somebody here locally deserved to write this, not some guy that nobody cares about and just wanted to write word upon word about what he saw. So that's what it was.
This is what I'll tell you.
Pointless.
This is what I'll tell you. I've been in the elevator with Matt Stafford after a crushing loss before. Matt Stafford did not look like he was going to cry anywhere. He had his Prada shoes on. He had his Louis Vuitton suitcase. He was dressed nice, smelled good, hair done. He looked like he was getting ready to go take that Wicked Witch of the West out, and they were going to have a good time. So,
exactly.
Matt Stafford can shove it.
Yeah, don't
so
cry.
Tired of his ass.
Don't cry for me. $2 million a month.
Yeah.
$500,000 a week. Yeah.
Hey, Matt Stafford, how about you go choke on a dick?
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, you type in Detroit Sports Podcast, hit subscribe, and you can find our daily content. Great podcast, sir. Our 45 minutes is up. Always enjoy breaking down Detroit sports. Football's here, cuz right around the corner. And good stuff around the way too with the podcast as we break stuff down. Adam and the practice squad will be there as well. Good things happening. I can't wait to listen this Friday. Make sure that you tune in, and especially now with CM Punk in the world of wrestling back, make sure you tune into the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast every Saturday. Thanks, cuz.